Life is not a game. It's a deep, complex interplay between order and chaos, structure and unpredictability. Every moment you wake up, you are stepping into a world that is only half known, half made. And your role in this life, it's not arbitrary. It's necessary. You are not here by accident. You are here with the capacity to shape reality by confronting it. That's the terrifying and beautiful truth. You matter more than you think. When you take responsibility, genuine personal responsibility, not for everything, but for something meaningful, something close to you, your family, your habits, your potential, you begin to realize that meaning isn't found. It's built, brick by brick, with intention, with integrity. There is a price to pay for everything you avoid. Every lie you tell, every truth you ignore, it accumulates. It doesn't vanish, it waits, and eventually it comes back, larger, heavier, and more destructive. But the opposite is also true. Every honest word spoken in the face of fear, every action taken toward what's meaningful despite the chaos, that also accumulates. It becomes a fortress, a place you can stand when everything shakes. You have to voluntarily confront the dragon. You don't wait for the fire to come to your door. You walk out to meet it, not because you're fearless, but because you're aiming higher than fear. You think your actions are small? They're not, because every step you take toward your better self sends ripples through the structure of reality itself. You're transforming the world every time you speak the truth, every time you carry the weight that is yours to bear. This is not just motivational fluff. This is psychologically, biologically, and philosophically grounded truth. You are a being with the ability to lift suffering, to reveal beauty, to speak order into chaos. So organize your soul, clean your room, yes, but more than that, clean your conscience, strengthen your mind, sharpen your words, and walk forward with your eyes open. When you realize how much potential you actually carry, how much impact your decisions have on the future, you'll never look at life the same. You'll look at it with reverence, with weight, with purpose, and that changes everything. Would you like this transformed into a video script, voiceover format, or something else? Order and chaos, the two fundamental domains of existence. Every human life is lived on the line between them. Order represents structure, predictability, tradition, stability. It is the domain of the known, the familiar, the controllable. Chaos, on the other hand, is everything that lies outside of that. Unpredictability, change, the unknown, and potential. It is where anxiety lives, but also where transformation begins. These aren't just abstract ideas. You encounter them every single day, in every decision, in every relationship, in every shift in circumstance. When your alarm clock rings and you choose to get out of bed and make something of your day, that is an act of choosing order. When you face a crisis, a challenge, a loss, something that breaks your routine, that's chaos knocking at your door. To grow as a person, you must walk voluntarily toward chaos without letting it consume you. But how? You carry the structure of order with you. That might sound poetic, but it is a concrete psychological reality. Your routines, your values, your integrity, these are the internal structures that let you step into uncertainty and not fall apart. And yet, if you only cling to order, if you try to control everything, avoid all risk, never step outside the known, you become rigid, anxious, and eventually resentful. Because life won't stay still. Everything evolves. Time moves forward whether you like it or not. And if you're not evolving with it, you fall behind, not just socially or economically, but spiritually. So the path is narrow. You can't remain safely in order, and you can't let yourself drown in chaos. The challenge and the opportunity is to integrate both. You are at your best when you bring the structure of what you know into confrontation with what you don't know. That's when you grow. That's when something truly meaningful is created. A child learns to walk by falling. A student becomes wise by confronting what they don't understand. A relationship deepens when both people willingly face difficult truth. Every great transformation occurs in that liminal space between the secure and the unfamiliar. That is where the hero walks, not with certainty, but with courage. Your role as an individual is not to eliminate chaos or to retreat into comfort. Your role is to become the kind of person who can face the unknown and shape it into something good. This is why responsibility matters. Because it's only by taking responsibility for yourself, your thoughts, your behavior, your words, that you become capable of influencing your environment. And when you do that, you aren't just surviving, you're creating meaning. You're aligning yourself with the deepest patterns of reality. Order and chaos are not just concepts to understand. They are forces to navigate. Every time you choose to fix a problem instead of ignoring it, every time you confront a fear instead of avoiding it, you are embodying the balance. You are acting out the story of the hero. And the more consciously you engage in this process, the more competent you become. The more grounded you are. You stop being thrown around by life and you start to stand. Not because the world has become easier, but because you have become stronger. That's what's at stake here. Not comfort, but transformation. Not ease, but evolution. Learn to walk the line between order and chaos, not as a victim, but as an active participant in your own becoming. When you do that, you begin to perceive life not as something to endure or escape, but as something to step into with responsibility, with dignity, and with purpose. And then you will never look at life the same. Responsibility is not just a burden. It's the very foundation of meaning in life. In fact, the moment you accept responsibility for something, truly accept it, without excuses or hesitation, you begin to transform not only the situation, but yourself. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid responsibility, thinking it will bring them freedom. But avoidance doesn't bring freedom. It brings weakness. And weakness is a breeding ground for despair. Responsibility, on the other hand, is what gives your life weight, structure, and direction. It tells you who you could be if you were serious, if you were disciplined, if you were courageous enough to carry something heavy and meaningful, willingly. Take any deeply fulfilling moment in life, and you'll see responsibility at the core. Raising a child, building a relationship, pursuing a worthy goal, contributing to your community, none of these are easy. They demand effort, sacrifice, vigilance, but it's precisely that demand that makes them valuable. The greater the responsibility, the greater the opportunity for meaning. The world offers you chaos. It offers suffering. It offers unpredictability and pain. That's the reality of life. But when you choose to carry your part of that burden, when you stop blaming the world or your past or others for your current condition, when you say, "This is my problem, and I'm going to deal with it," that's when something shifts. That's when you stop drifting and start building. There is an internal voice, one you've likely heard but maybe haven't listened to fully. That tells you what you're avoiding, what you're capable of, what you're meant to take responsibility for. That voice doesn't shout, it whispers. It asks questions. It challenges your excuses. And if you ignore it for long enough, life begins to decay around you. Not all at once, slowly, subtly, your habits slip, your relationships weaken, your goals become vague. You start to feel anxious, lost, resentful. But here's the key. You can turn it around right now, because the ability to take responsibility is always within reach. You can start small, clean your space, fix your posture, tell the truth, make your bed, apologize when you're wrong. These acts seem trivial, but they are profound. They reassert your agency in a world that constantly tempts you to act like a victim. And once you start down that path, the world begins to change, because you are changing. You're becoming the kind of person who can be relied upon, who can be trusted, who has their life in order, not because everything is perfect, but because you're aiming at something higher and moving toward it with discipline. That is the beginning of transformation. And it starts not with entitlement, not with blame, but with responsibility. The heavy load that no one can carry but you, that's your path to meaning. When you accept it fully, life doesn't get easier, but it gets deeper. And in that depth, you find something worth waking up for, something worth enduring for. You realize that meaning is not handed to you. It is forged in the fire of responsibility. That's when you stop living as a passive observer and become an active participant in your own destiny. And that changes everything. Truth is not just a moral ideal, it is a functional necessity. If you want to reduce suffering, if you want to build something lasting, if you want to live in alignment with what is real, then you must tell the truth, and that starts with yourself. Most people are in conflict not because of external circumstances, but because they are at war internally. It says they are at war internally. They are saying things they don't believe, doing things they know are wrong, avoiding conversations they should be having. And all that builds pressure, that pressure doesn't go away. It manifests as anxiety, resentment, fatigue, because deep down, your mind and body know when you're living a lie. And you can't escape that awareness. Truth, however, has the opposite effect. It clarifies, it frees. it strengthens. But it's also painful. There's a reason people avoid it, because truth cuts. It forces you to confront what you've ignored, what you've done wrong, and what needs to change. But in that pain is the seed of transformation. Truth is the surgical blade that removes the rot. It's uncomfortable, but it's healing. Every time you speak honestly, especially when it's hard, you align yourself with reality. And that alignment gives you power, not the superficial power of manipulation, but the grounded, unshakable power of authenticity. You become someone others can trust, someone you can trust. Lying, even in small ways, corrodes the soul. It makes you weaker. It distorts your perception. You start to lose track of what's real because you've bent reality to serve your fear or your pride, and eventually the world stops making sense. But when you commit to the truth, to seeking it, speaking it, living by it, you regain clarity. You see people more clearly. You make better decisions. Your conscience begins to calm, and your purpose sharpens. Telling the truth doesn't mean being brutal. It means being sincere. It means standing up straight and saying what needs to be said, even when your voice shakes. The truth is the antidote to suffering. It doesn't erase pain, but it gives it a purpose. It gives you the strength to endure and, more importantly, to grow. When you stop hiding from the truth, when you invite it in, even when it's inconvenient, you begin to walk a straighter path. That path may be narrow. It may be steep, but it leads somewhere worth going. And when you choose it, you're no longer just reacting to life. You're shaping it, one honest moment at a time. That's how you become resilient. That's how you become real. And once you experience that, you'll never want to go back to anything less. Human beings are the only creatures on this planet burdened with full awareness of their own existence. We know that we are here. We know that we will die. And we know, often painfully, just how much potential and failure we're capable of. This is both a tremendous gift and an immense weight. Consciousness isn't just about perception. It's about moral perception. You're not just aware of the world. You're aware of how you ought to act within it. And that knowledge makes you responsible whether you like it or not. Cat doesn't worry about the future. It doesn't reflect on its choices. It doesn't try to better itself. But you do. You can. And because you can, that's the double-edged sword of being fully conscious. Your life is yours to shape, but it also means you are accountable for what you do with it. Most people try to dull that awareness because it's overwhelming. They distract themselves with entertainment, substances, superficial relationships, anything to avoid the full weight of their own potential. But the truth is, you're not meant to avoid it. You're meant to carry it. The discomfort you feel when you know you're not living up to your potential, that's not a flaw, it's a signal. It's your higher self calling you out. It's life demanding more from you. And that demand is not cruelty. It's invitation. An invitation to grow, to mature, to become someone of substance. But growth requires that you confront the uncomfortable aspects of yourself. Your laziness, your cowardice, your bitterness, we all have it. No one is exempt. But what separates those who rise from those who fall is the willingness to face it. Consciousness allows for that. It lets you step outside of yourself, examine your flaws, and course correct. That's extraordinary. It means you can change, not just your behavior, your character. You can become someone better than you were yesterday. And not because someone else told you to, but because you know it's the right thing to do. The world needs conscious individuals. People who are awake, who are grounded, who are capable of seeing clearly and acting courageously. Because when you live unconsciously, you become a slave to impulse. You react instead of choose. You become a victim of your circumstances instead of a creator of your future. But when you live with full awareness of your flaws, your responsibilities, your impact, you gain the power to shape not only your life, but the lives of those around you. This is not an easy path. It's far simpler to drift, to numb yourself, to pretend none of it matters. But the truth is, everything you do matters. Every choice you make ripples out into the world in ways you may never see. That is the sacred burden of consciousness, the knowledge that your life has meaning, whether or not you're ready to accept it. You can't unknow what you know. You can't unsee what you've seen. So the only question left is, what will you do with that awareness? There's a kind of pain in life that is inevitable. Pain from loss, pain from aging, pain from the randomness of the world. But there is another kind of pain, a more dangerous one. And that is the pain of avoiding what needs to be faced. Life offers you two forms of suffering. The suffering that breaks you and the suffering that builds you. And here's the secret most people miss. The pain that comes from voluntary struggle is the only kind of pain that transforms. When you choose to face hardship willingly, when you step into discomfort instead of running from it, you tap into a source of power most people never access. You stop being merely a victim of life's difficulties and start becoming the architect of your own strength. It's easy to avoid pain. That's what comfort culture tells you to do. Escape, numb, distract. But every time you do, you trade long-term growth for short-term relief. You become weaker not because life is hard, but because you chose to retreat from what could have made you stronger. It means you hold the line when others waver, not because you enjoy suffering, but because you understand that some things are worth the pain. In a world full of instability, those who possess inner strength become anchors for others. They provide calm in chaos, clarity in confusion. But that kind of strength can't be faked. It has to be earned slowly, quietly, often without recognition. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, truth over convenience, responsibility over blame, you are building the muscles of character. And like physical training, it's the repeated effort, day in and day out, that creates transformation. One of the greatest indicators of strength is restraint. Anyone can lash out in anger, quit when things get hard, or indulge their impulses. That's easy. What's hard is holding back when every part of you wants to explode. What's hard is staying composed when everything feels like it's falling apart. That kind of strength, internal, stable, enduring, is what allows you to face life without being crushed by it. It doesn't mean you don't feel pain or fear or doubt. It means those things don't control you. You feel them, you face them, and you keep going anyway. The world respects strength, not arrogance. There's a difference. Arrogance is brittle. It breaks when confronted. True strength is humble. It doesn't boast because it doesn't need to. It's visible not in noise, but in consistency, in perseverance, in quiet courage. Strong people don't have to announce their presence. They are their presence. When they walk into a room, they bring stability with them. Not because they're perfect, but because they've been through chaos and came out the other side with their integrity intact. If you want to live a meaningful life, you have to become strong, not for status, not for ego, but because the weight of existence is real. Life is not a game without consequence. It demands something from you. And if you are weak morally, emotionally, spiritually, then that demand will crush you. But if you are strong, you can carry not only your own burden, but help others carry theirs. That is the highest form of strength, not domination, but service. To become that person, you must earn it. Brick by brick, day by day, one hard choice after another. Discipline is not punishment, it is freedom. It is the structure that allows you to build a life that doesn't collapse under its own weight. Without discipline, your desires rule you. Your moods control you. Your impulses define you. And that kind of life, though it may feel liberating in the moment, leads to chaos. Because without structure, without intentional limits, you cannot grow. Imagine a river with no banks. It spills out, it floods, it becomes stagnant. But when it has boundaries, it has direction, power, purpose. That's what discipline gives your life. Discipline is the daily act of choosing what matters most over what feels good in the moment. It is waking up when you'd rather sleep in. It is telling the truth when lying would be easier. It is training your body, your mind, your spirit to act in alignment with your values, especially when no one is watching. And this is critical. Discipline is not motivated by shame or guilt. It is born from the vision of who you could be. You don't become disciplined by beating yourself up. You become disciplined by understanding that your future self is shaped by your present choices and that your potential is too valuable to waste on short-term comfort. Many people wait for motivation before they act, but discipline doesn't rely on motivation. It doesn't ask how you feel about it. Discipline is a decision, one you make over and over again until it becomes who you are. And here's the beauty of it. The more you practice discipline, the more trust you build in yourself. You stop needing external validation. You stop fearing failure. Because you know you will show up regardless of how hard it gets. That internal trust is rare, and it is priceless. It gives you a kind of confidence that no one can take from you. Discipline also leads to peace. Not the fleeting peace of avoidance, but the solid peace of knowing you are living in alignment with your principles. You go to bed with clarity. You face the world with resilience. You become someone others can count on, not because you're perfect, but because you are consistent. Discipline turns chaos into order, ambition into achievement, and potential into reality. It is not a burden. It is the scaffolding of greatness. When you commit to a disciplined life, you are telling the world and yourself that you are not here to drift. You are here to build. And what you build day by day, brick by brick, is a life of strength, integrity, and purpose. That's not something you stumble into. That's something you earn through discipline. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite fear. Most people misunderstand this. They wait to feel brave before taking action. But bravery rarely feels like a roar. It often feels like a whisper, like shaking hands doing what needs to be done anyway. Courage isn't loud, it's persistent. And it's essential because life is full of uncertainty, full of risk, full of things you cannot control. If you do not develop courage, fear will govern your life. It will dictate your decisions, your relationships, your dreams. And slowly, silently, your world will shrink. Fear is natural. It's a protective mechanism. But when fear runs unchecked, it becomes a prison. The way out is not to destroy fear, but to confront it, bit by bit, step by step. When you do that, you begin to learn something extraordinary, that fear loses its power when you move through it. Courage is developed through exposure, through voluntary confrontation with what terrifies you. You speak when it's difficult. You try when failure is likely. You stand when it would be easier to sit down. Every act of courage builds on the last. And over time, you become someone who no longer seeks the path of least resistance, but the path of meaningful resistance. Courage also means standing for what is right, even when you stand alone. It means refusing to compromise your values, even under pressure. It means facing your own weaknesses and saying, I will do better. That kind of courage isn't glamorous. It's quiet. It's internal. But it is the root of every noble life, because courage is what enables you to tell the truth, to take responsibility, to endure suffering, to grow. Without it, you remain stuck, always dreaming, never becoming. And here's the deeper truth. Courage inspires. When you act bravely, you don't just change your own life. You give others permission to rise. Your example becomes a light for those lost in their own fear. That's the hidden power of courage. It multiplies, it ripples outward. One brave soul can shift the culture of a room, a family, a generation. So don't wait for courage to find you. Go out and meet it. Face the thing you've been avoiding. Say the thing you've been holding in. Take the step you've been postponing. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because on the other side of fear is freedom. And freedom is the soil in which your best self can finally grow. Responsibility is not just a duty. It is the very foundation of a meaningful life. We often think of responsibility as a burden, something imposed on us from the outside. But in truth, it is a profound privilege. It is the recognition that you are capable of making a difference, not just in your own life, but in the lives of others. The moment you stop blaming your circumstances, your parents, your past, or the system, and instead say, this is my life. I am accountable for how it unfolds. That's the moment everything changes. Because now you are no longer a passive participant in your own story. You are the author. And authors have power. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that, regardless of what has happened to you, there is still a path forward, and it is yours to walk. Life will be unfair. People will let you down. Systems will fail, but your response to all of that is yours. You don't control the world, but you control how you show up in it. That is no small thing. In fact, it's everything. When you assume responsibility, you gain leverage over chaos. You begin to build order where there was none. You transform pain into purpose and confusion into clarity. And in doing so, you become someone others can rely on, someone grounded, mature, trustworthy. But responsibility isn't glamorous. It requires consistency. It requires sacrifice. It requires the humility to admit where you failed and the courage to do better. It often means doing the right thing when no one is watching and there is no immediate reward. But the reward is deeper than applause. It's integrity, it's pride, it's knowing that your life is aligned with your values, that you're not just existing, you're contributing. There's a reason why those who carry the most responsibility tend to be the strongest, most respected individuals in any environment. It's because they've chosen the harder path. They've said, I will bear this weight, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. And in doing so, they found meaning, not in pleasure or ease, but in the act of carrying something that matters. That could be your family, your craft, your health, your principles. Whatever it is, it becomes a source of strength. You wake up with purpose because something depends on you. That's not a trap, that's freedom. Avoiding responsibility might feel like freedom at first. You drift, you party, you do what you want when you want. But over time, that lack of structure, that lack of rootedness begins to rot the soul. You start to feel aimless, restless, anxious. Because deep down, you know you're not fulfilling your potential. You know you're wasting your strength. And that gnawing sense of dissatisfaction doesn't go away until you step up and say, enough. I am responsible for my life. That declaration is a turning point. Responsibility also gives you resilience. When life punches you in the mouth, and it will, those who are responsible get back up faster. Not because they're superhuman, but because they've trained themselves to respond instead of react. They don't wallow in self-pity. They assess, adapt, and act. They know that setbacks are part of the deal, but quitting, that's not an option. Because they've taken ownership, and when something is yours, you protect it, fight for it, build it, no matter what comes. Taking responsibility also means acknowledging your influence. Every word you say, every choice you make affects the world in some way. You might not see the ripple effects immediately, but they're real. You're shaping the culture around you, in your home, in your workplace, in your community. If you act with carelessness, apathy, or dishonesty, that spreads. But so does discipline. So does courage. So does truth. When you take responsibility, you're not just improving yourself, you're elevating everyone around you. And it all begins with a single powerful question. What am I avoiding that I need to face? That's where responsibility lives. In the unspoken promises you make to yourself and others. In the work you do when it would be easier not to. In the quiet voice that says, keep going, even when no one else is encouraging you. You don't have to carry the weight of the world, but you do have to carry your share. And in doing so, you'll discover something extraordinary, that the burden you feared would crush you is actually what strengthens you. Responsibility is not a trap. It is your path to becoming everything you were meant to be. Success, as the world often portrays it, is deeply misunderstood. It is not simply the accumulation of wealth, the attainment of status, or the applause of others. Those things, though tempting, are shallow imitations of what true success actually is. Real success is the progressive realization of your highest potential. The disciplined pursuit of what is meaningful, not merely what is expedient. It's not something you stumble upon. It's not handed to you. And it certainly doesn't come from luck alone. Success in its truest form is built, brick by brick, habit by habit, decision by decision, often in silence, often in solitude, and often in direct opposition to the path of least resistance. To be truly successful is to align your actions with a clear vision of the kind of person you want to become. It is to live a life guided by purpose rather than impulse. It's saying a no to distraction, to short-term pleasures, to the voices that tell you to lower your standards. Success demands sacrifice, not occasionally, but consistently. It requires you to trade comfort for growth and familiarity for challenge. It doesn't happen when conditions are perfect. It happens when you decide to act, even when they're not. It happens when you decide that the pain of staying the same is greater than the discomfort of change. One of the most dangerous lies society promotes is that success is a destination. That one day, after all your hard work, you'll arrive. And everything will be easy. But that's not how life works. Success isn't a finish line. It's a process, a discipline, a way of being. You don't achieve success. You become someone who creates it, maintains it, and lives it. And to do that, you have to become relentless. Not reckless, but relentless. Relentless in your commitment to your standards. Relentless in your pursuit of self-mastery. Relentless in your refusal to settle for mediocrity, because the truth is the world will offer you 1,000 reasons to quit, to compromise, to justify staying average. But the truly successful are the ones who see those reasons and say, no. I'm not stopping here. Another misunderstood aspect of success is the necessity of failure. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a fundamental ingredient. Every person who has ever achieved something worthwhile has failed, and failed deeply, but they learned. They adapted. They got stronger. Success requires you to have the humility to be a beginner, the grit to persist, and the courage to try again after every setback. If you fear failure more than you desire growth, you will remain stuck. But if you see failure as feedback, as information, not identity, then you become unstoppable. Because every fall becomes a lesson, every obstacle becomes an opportunity, and every scar becomes a symbol of your resilience. You also need to understand that success is not a solo act. It is not built in isolation, though solitude is often required. Success is connected to service, to how much value you bring to others, to how deeply you impact the lives around you. If your vision of success ends with yourself, it is too small. True success uplifts others. It inspires. It inspires. It creates legacy. It changes the trajectory of communities, families, and future generations. It's not about being better than others. It's about being better than who you were yesterday and using your progress to light the way for someone else. Finally, success demands brutal honesty with yourself. You cannot lie your way into greatness. You cannot shortcut your way to lasting impact. You have to confront your laziness, your fears, your excuses, and your habits. You have to wake up and look yourself in the mirror and ask, am I truly giving my best, or am I hiding behind distractions, behind comfort, behind excuses? That level of honesty is rare, but it's the gateway to transformation, because once you're honest, you can act. And once you act, momentum builds. And once momentum builds, growth becomes exponential. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? But instead, what is this trying to teach me? You realize that your most painful experiences may be the very things that prepare you for your greatest purpose. That the tears you shed water the soil for your next chapter. That the breaking open of your heart is what makes you capable of deeper love, deeper empathy, deeper strength. Pain is not proof that you're broken. It's proof that you're still alive, still growing, still in the fight. And as long as you're in the fight, there is always the possibility of redemption, of reinvention, of rising. So let pain teach you. Let it carve out the parts of you that were never meant to stay. Let it reveal your courage, sharpen your clarity, and strengthen your soul. Don't run from it. Use it. Let it refine you. Let it build you into someone whose scars are not signs of defeat, but marks of resilience. Because the people who've walked through fire and kept walking, they don't just survive, they lead, they inspire. They become the living proof that pain, when faced with truth and courage, is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a deeper one.